Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the third video on preventing fraud. In this video, we will discuss cases on how to eliminate opportunities to commit fraud. We will solve cases emphasizing the relevance of policies and procedures to prevent and detect fraud. We will discuss case to develop a comprehensive code of ethics. We will discuss case on the importance to addressing control, monitoring, and ethical standards. We will discuss case on establishing effective fraud prevention measures, case on the need to address internal process challenging and ethical concerns or challenges and ethical concerns, case emphasizing on mitigating risk in cash management. We will discuss case on how to create a positive work environment, case on how to strengthen internal controls, case on the need to enhance supervisory controls at the bank, case on the need to foster culture of integrity to prevent fraud, case on the need to address risk factors for fraudulent behavior, case on enhancing the whistleblower program, and finally, case on how to ensure honest hires. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel to search for accounting lessons and hit the notification bell button to alert you for the latest video. For all of your questions, comments, and suggestions, please put them in the comment section below. And for webinar and guest speaker invites, please send me a message at accountingamir@gmail.com. Accounting is AK. We hope that this video helps students in their academic development and teachers in enhancing their lesson plans and teaching methodologies. So let us start with the first case. And Karen, a friend of yours, recently started her own business, the bike and boulder company B&B. B&B specializes in the sales of mountain bikes and rock climbing equipment. Karen is putting the finishing touches on her company policies and procedures. She knows you are taking a fraud class and asks you to review what she has completed thus far. You quickly notice that Karen has neglected to address fraud and fraud prevention in her policies and procedures. So, what policies and procedures would you suggest Karen implement to prevent and detect fraud at B&B? So, this case is on emphasizing the relevance of policies and procedures to prevent and detect fraud. So, first of all, Karen should implement a structured interview process for all potential candidates. She should require candidates to provide 3 personal references and conduct thorough reference checks before making hiring decisions. Additionally, contact previous employers to gather insights into the candidate's performance and reasons for leaving. Then foster an environment where the manager's doors is always open to employees to share new ideas, concerns, and problems in a confidential manner. Encourage open communication between managers and employees, ensuring that discussion remains confidential unless explicitly requested by the employee. Require all employees to read and sign the company's code of ethics, clearly outlining acceptable and unacceptable behaviors within the organization. Ensure that employees understand the importance of ethical conduct in maintaining the company's integrity and reputation. Then establish a clear policy stipulating that any employee found guilty of committing dishonest acts against the company will be terminated from employment and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This policy sends a strong message about the company's zero tolerance approach towards fraudulent behavior. Then encourage employees to submit suggestions, tips, and complaints anonymously through a designated box. Ensure that Karen has sole access to the suggestion box and that all submissions are taken seriously and addressed promptly. By implementing these policies and procedures, Karen can promote transparency, integrity, and accountability within the organization, fostering a positive work culture conducive to productivity and ethical behavior. Let us move on to the next case. And because ABC companies suffered large losses from fraud last year, senior management has decided to be more proactive in implementing a fraud prevention environment. In interviewing employees, they found that many employees were unclear about which behaviors were ethical and which were not. What could management do to better educate employees about ethical behavior? So, this case is on emphasizing the importance to develop a comprehensive code of ethics. Senior management ought to undertake the development of a comprehensive code of ethics or conduct which should be effectively communicated across the entire organization. It is imperative that every employee is mandated to review and sign the code on an annual basis. This practice ensures that all members of the organization are fully aware of the ethical standards and principles expected of them, fostering a culture of integrity, accountability, and ethical behavior throughout the company. Let us move on to the next case. Jason works at a new software development company. The company has been in existence for only 2 years. Since the company is new, everybody is working extra hours and spending all of their time developing new products that can be sold to the customers. Everybody is busy and there is little or very little time for manager employee interviews. The culture of the company is trusting and fun. When Jason started with the company, the only agreement he had to sign was an agreement to not transfer company software secrets to other organizations. Earlier in the year, Jason learned of an instance where another employee in accounting was fired. The reason was rumored to be fraudulent behavior, but nobody really knew the reason. What about the organization's operating procedures encourages fraudulent behavior? So, this case is on emphasizing the importance to address control, monitoring, and ethical standards. Initially, it is evident that the company lacks sufficient control monitoring mechanism. There is a notable absence of managerial oversight in Jason's case, as no manager conducted an interview or reviewed company policies or monitored his activities. Moreover, the company fails to uphold a code of ethics, neglecting to inform Jason of its existence upon hiring. Instead, he was only required to sign a non disclosure agreement concerning software secrets. This lack of transparency regarding ethical standards leaves employees uncertain about repercussions for fraudulent behavior and the reasons behind an employee's departure. Thus, there is a critical need for the organization to establish robust control measures and reinforce adherence to ethical guidelines to uphold integrity and accountability within the workforce. Encourage open communication regarding ethical standards and organizational values. ensure employees understand the importance of integrity and accountability in the workplace. Let us move on to the next case. Nell works for a large Fortune 500 company. She heads the information system department and works closely with the accounting department. The company works with many associates. They have many buyer and supplier. They work with. Nell knows a lot about the database systems and the accounting practices in the company. She even works closely with buyers and suppliers to create data communication lines. Recently, Nell has become concerned about the integrity and reliability of the accounting and information systems. The company has grown to a point where she cannot manage or supervise all the activities performed in these areas. So, what proactive steps can Nile take to ensure systems and accounting integrity and prevent fraudulent behavior? So, this case emphasizes on the relevance of establishing effective fraud prevention measures. Initially, it is imperative for NEL to establish a comprehensive system for monitoring suppliers and buyers associated with the company. Implementing simply yet effective queries within data and accounting systems can help identify and prevent the establishment of fraudulent entities. NEL should also institute a reporting system that mandates employees to report any suspicious activities directly to her attention. Furthermore, NEL must ensure that all employees are well informed about the proactive measures the company undertakes to prevent, detect, and prosecute fraudulent activities. This includes fostering a culture of transparency and accountability within the organization. Additionally, NEL can reinforce the company's commitment to ethical conduct by regularly reviewing the code of ethics, which each employee fostering an atmosphere of trust and integrity throughout the company. Let us move on to the next case. While performing an audit of TCC Corporation, the audit team noticed something that didn't look right. The company receivables aging report showed that bank loan eligible receivables were approximately 91 million. The audit team calculated the bank loan eligible receivables to be approximately 50 million. The client didn't identify specific accounts in writing off bad debts. There was extremely slow credit memo processings, and items that management has not focused on remained uncollectible and ineligible for financing. In addition, over the last 2 years, the company's credit department has had unusually high turnover. Four different people uh, had held the credit manager position under an intimidating CFO. The current credit manager was a friend of the CFO and had worked with him at a previous company. After looking at some invoices and asking about customer information to confirm, the credit manager admitted to creating false documents and arranging fictitious sales with clients, all with the knowledge of CFO. What are some of the red flags that point to the possibility of fraud? What would you say was the main problem in this case that allowed the fraud to occur? So, this case emphasizes on the need to address internal process challenges and ethical concerns. The client exhibits several problematic internal processes, notably the sluggish credit memo processing, which poses a threat to the integrity of these operations. Moreover, the credit department has experienced unusually high turnover rates, potentially exacerbated by a challenging work environment fostered by an intimidating CFO. It is noteworthy that the current credit manager share personal relationship with the CFO, raising concerns regarding the possibility of collusion. The primary issue lies in the inadequacy of modeling or the tone at the top, encompassing the principles of integrity, ethical standards, and managerial competence. Had the CFO demonstrated integrity and set realistic expectations, the likelihood of such fraudulent activities occurring would have been considerably diminished. Then Joseph Gonzalez recently brought a new business that includes a small 20-room motel and a coffee shop. He hired a young couple to run the business and planned to pay them a monthly salary. The couple will live for free in a small apartment behind the motel office and will be in charge of the daily operations of the motel and coffee shop. They will also be responsible for hiring and supervising the 4 or 5 part time employees who will help with cleaning the rooms, cooking, and waiting on customers in the restaurant. The couple will also maintain records of rooms rented, meals served, and payments received, which can be in the form of cash, checks, or credit cards. They will make weekly deposits of the business proceeds at the local bank. Joseph lives about 6 hours away and will only be able to visit periodically. What are your two biggest concerns about possible fraud on the part of the couple? For each concern, identify a possible control that could reduce the risk of fraud. So, this case emphasizes on mitigating risk in cash management. The couple assumes responsibility for managing cash, recording cash receipts, and depositing funds at the bank. It is feasible to assign the task of making daily deposits to another part time employee. However, there is a potential risk associated with the couple's authority over hiring part time personnel. They may be inclined to recruit friends and family members and engage in collusion to misappropriate funds or assets from the restaurant. So, to mitigate this risk, the owner should personally oversee the hiring process for part time staff and mandate the submission of daily records detailing rooms rented, meals served, and payments received. It is evident that the couple currently holds excessive control over the business, necessitating the segregation of duties. Establishing segregation of duties can be efficiently achieved through the inclusion of part time employees in various operational tasks. Let us move on to the next case. Danny has been working at Gant Automobile for 2 years. He feels fortunate to have held his job for so long, considering his past, which involves being fired for fraudulent activities in two different cases. His boss, Mr. Gant, is generally a pretty cold person and only says hello to Danny upon arriving and leaving the work of each day. All of the guys at work tend to slack a little here and there. They don't mind eating lunch at the company's expense, and there is a general lack of order about the place. Danny has been feeling tight on cash lately, having just moved into a home that is perhaps a little too expensive. With these internal pressures and no one on whom to unhold his troubles or with whom to talk, Danny decided to steal parts from the parts garage and sell them to the street for cash. What could Gant Automobile have done to prevent Danny's fraud? So, this case emphasizes on how to create a positive work environment. So, Gantt could have implemented measures to cultivate a more conducive work environment. These steps may include implementing a thorough hiring process, including background checks to ensure the recruitment of honest individuals. Additionally, providing fraud awareness trainings to the employees, establishing an open door policy to encourage transparent communication between management and employees, developing a comprehensive and respected code of ethics that outline expected conduct and principles within the organization, offering an employee assistant program EAP to provide support and assistance to employees facing personal or professional challenges such as the situation Danny encountered. Then, establishing clear expectations that dishonest behavior will not be tolerated and will be met with appropriate disciplinary actions. By implementing these strategies, Gantt could have fostered a more positive and ethical work environment conducive to employee well being and organizational integrity. Let us go to the next case. Mary S. is the owner of a small flower shop with only 12 employees. The environment is one of trust. Mary personally knows each employee and most have worked at the shop since its opening. Although few controls exist, Mary is the only person allowed to sign checks. Mary's good friend Steve is very important to the business. Not only is he the head accountant, but he also helps maintaining relationships with vendors. Steve is the proud father of three children, two sons and one daughter. Steve's son was soon to start college at an Ivy College League school. Although immensely proud, Steve was worried about making tuition payments as well as providing for the rest of his family. After his son's freshman year, things began to get really tight. Not wanting his son to know that the family was hurting financially, he decided to talk to a vendor who was interested in doing business with the company. After accepting the first kickback, the second was easier. Soon, Steve was able to pay for his son's tuition and more. He began buying expensive jewelry for his wife and taking extravagant trips. Because Mary was a personal friend, she inquired where the money was coming from. Steve told Mary that his wife has received an inheritance from an aunt. Because Mary trusted him, she believed his story. She did not become suspicious until one day she tried to contact a vendor directly. Steve would not allow her to do so and insisted that she talk to the vendor through him. Soon Mary discovered that Steve had taken a substantial amount of money and had taken advantage of their trusted relationship. How could this fraud have been prevented? So this case emphasizes on how to strengthen internal controls. Stronger internal controls could have mitigated the risk of fraud. However, implementing such controls can be resource intensive for a small firm. Mary could have played a more proactive role in vendor management by requiring her approval on all contract agreements and informing vendors of the company's zero tolerance policy regarding kickbacks and bribes. Despite being a small business, it was essential for Mary to actively monitor employee activities, implementing a formal code of ethics, and ensuring that each employee acknowledges and adheres to it would have been beneficial. Additionally, there are fundamental practices that every small business owner should adopt, including personally signing all checks to track payments, regularly reviewing bank statements, ensuring all cash is properly deposited, and periodically assessing vendor relationships and services rendered. By implementing these measures, Mary could have strengthened oversight and deterred fraudulent activities within her business. Let us move on to the next case. Robert was the chief teller in a large New York bank. Over a period of 3 years, he embezzled 1.5 million. He took the money by manipulating dormant accounts. Unfortunately, Robert was both responsible for handling dormant accounts and for dealing with complaints from customers. When a customer would complain about his account, Robert was always the one to explain that discrepancy. He usually used the excuse that it's a computer error. What internal control weaknesses allow this fraud to occur? So, this case emphasizes on the need to enhance supervisory controls at the bank. The bank's failure to implement adequate segregation of duties and independent checks, coupled with concentration of supervisory authority in one individual, notably contributed to the occurrence and persistence of the fraud. Placing excessive trust and supervisory power in Robert exacerbated the vulnerability of the bank's operations. Implementing measures such as assigning separate supervisors for dormant accounts and customer complaints or mandating mandatory vacations for Robert would have introduced check and balances that could have detected or deterred fraudulent activities. Additionally, periodically rotating Robert's responsibilities to allow other staff members to handle customer complaints could have minimized the risk of prolonged fraudulent behavior. Thus, by diversifying supervisory roles and implementing periodic reviews, the bank could have mitigated the risk of fraud and fostered a more robust control environment. Okay. A controller of a small fruit packing company in California stole 212,000 from the company. When asked why he said nobody at the company, especially the owner, ever talked to me. They treated me unfairly, they talked down to me, and they were rude to me. They deserve everything they got. What could the company have done to prevent this fraud? This case emphasizes on the need to foster culture of integrity to prevent fraud. The chapter emphasizes the importance of fostering a culture of honesty, openness, and supportiveness to prevent fraud. Unfortunately, in this case, there was a notable absence of such principles. The lack of communication and assistance towards the employee exacerbated the situation. Instead of providing support, the employee faced mistreatment and condescension from colleagues. It is well established that environments characterized by hostility and distrust often experience higher instance of fraud. When employees perceive the company and its leadership as adversaries rather than allies, the risk of fraudulent behavior increases significantly. To mitigate such risk, organizations should prioritize creating a positive and supportive work culture where open communication and assistance are encouraged. By fostering an environment of trust and collaboration, companies can effectively deter fraudulent activities and promote ethical conduct among employees. Okay. George recently graduated with his MBA from a prestigious Ivy League school, lacking external financial support. George was forced to finance his MBA with a significant amount of student debt. Unfortunately, he also developed a love of eating out and golfing that exacerbated his debt problems as he financed his expensive outings with credit cards. George was not as successful as he had hoped and secured a job that paid substantially less than what he had anticipated making when he took out his student loans. After graduation, his monthly loan payments were a significant financial burden. Further, soon after starting work, George's mother died and George became clinically depressed, which endangered even more poor financial management. About this time, George also started drinking. Is George at a higher risk of fraud than a normal person? Why? How might an employee assistance program help George? So, this case emphasizes on the need to address risk factors for fraudulent behaviors. George exhibits several risk factors for potential fraudulent behavior, including substantial financial pressures stemming from student loans and credit card debt, along with personal challenges such as depression and alcohol abuse. Now, these circumstances contribute to a sense of desperation, which is often associated with employee fraud. Implementing an employee assistance program could provide George with essential support to address his financial, substance abuse, and psychological issues. Through the EAP, George could access professional assistance for managing his depression and receiving counseling for his alcohol dependency. By addressing these underlying issues, George would be better equipped to lead a financially healthy life and reduce the likelihood of succumbing the temptation of fraudulent activities. Thus, establishing proactive measures like an EAP not only supports the well being of employees like George, but also contributes to fostering a positive and support work environment conducive to ethical conduct and fraud prevention. Let us move on to the next case. Mega Globular is a large private international corporation that has been experiencing problems with fraud. Management has heard of the success other companies have had with whistleblowing programs mandated by the Sarbanes Oxley Act and decides to implement a formal whistleblower system and other fraud prevention programs. In every office, they assign an employee to be the fraud liaison, usually someone in middle management. They hang signs in all break rooms alerting employees about the liaisons. They sign instruct employees to call the liaisons and support any observed fraud. After a year, Mega Globular realized it was having minimal success with its whistleblowing program. No one had called liaisons and the number of frauds were unchanged. What went wrong? How could Mega Global change its program to get a better response? So this case emphasizes on enhancing the whistleblower program. There are several shortcomings in the current whistleblower program that need addressing. Firstly, the lack of true anonymity in reporting undermines employees' confidence in the process as they may fear retaliation by the fraud liaison. Secondly, if the liaison themselves is implicated in fraudulent activities, the reporting system becomes ineffective. Thirdly, relying solely on notices in the break room for awareness is insufficient. Comprehensive training on the program operation and importance is necessary for all employees. Without proper training, the effectiveness of the program is compromised. Then, lastly, top management must actively demonstrate the importance of whistleblower program by consistently emphasizing its significance to employees. Enhancing the whistleblower program strengthens organizational integrity and promotes a culture of transparency and accountability. Let us move on to the last case. Your friend Mark Ambrose runs a small convenience store. He recently fired an employee who had repeatedly stolen merchandise when closing the store alone. Mark is now looking for a replacement and asks for your advice on how he can make sure he hires someone that will be honest. Given the small scale of his operation, he needs someone he can trust as they will often be working alone with the merchandise and the cash register. What would you advise Mark to do? So this case emphasizes on how to ensure honest hires. Employers have various techniques at their disposal to ensure they hire honest employees, like background checks. Comprehensive background checks reveal candidate history and integrity. We have talked a lot in this video. Reference verification, contacting references. They provide insights into past behavior and performance. Drug tests help ensure a drug-free workplace environment. Checking criminal records identifies potential red flags. Cross-referencing fingerprints with databases aids in identity verification. Then examining credit history offers insights into financial responsibility. And finally, interviews assess candidates' integrity and suitability for the role. So these screening methods collectively contribute to building a trustworthy workforce and minimizing the risk of hiring individuals with questionable backgrounds or ethical standards. So this completes the third video on preventing fraud. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and if you found value in this video, then please like, subscribe and share my channel and hit the notification bell button to alert you for the latest video. For webinar and guest speaker invites, please send me a message at accountingamir@gmail.com. Remember, effective questioning brings insight, which fuels curiosity, which cultivates wisdom. If you have any question or any suggestion regarding this session, then please put them in the comment box below or by email, and inshallah I will reply you back. Thank you so much and happy learning.